Okay, let's start real fast, get you the real important information right away, and then I can elaborate on the whole story. Long time no see. It's good to catch up. So, I've started a business recently. I have a business partner, and for the last 2 months, we've been creating this new application, new website, and the whole idea is that I'm an avid nerd, D&D enthusiast, and myself and my friends noticed that when you play this game, it's basically a shared storytelling experience. There are parts where it can be very difficult to tell a story, specifically during combat, and so this new application that we're making uses generative AI to help assist you in telling your story. That's what I've been doing, but of course you're going to need a lot more context. If you want to try it out, it's going live as of today, after this video has been launched, and I'll put the website that you can go check it out. There's also our company website in case you want to read a little bit about our team and all of our social links and everything that you would expect to find there. So what happened that I've been away for so long? You would imagine, just as I had explained, that a lot of it would have to do what I've been studying recently. My dad is a first-generation software developer, programmer, and it always was something that kind of interested me, but I just never did it because I never had the time, and then where I was more usually focused on the sort of media that I create, this seemed like a natural path for me. But when I wasn't able to make that float, I thought, hey, let's go visit this again, and so I did. And I attended this boot camp that is called The Wagon, and it is based out of Tokyo in Meguro. So there's like a whole bunch that's really cool about this. So I was asking around, and it just so happened to be another subscriber who gave me this really important piece of information, which was, if you apply to work for this thing, or study at this thing, that you're going to receive half of your tuition back after you finish, and if you were to find a job right away, then you would get 70%. It's significant. So I thought, okay, half price to go and get educated in something that I was always really interested in. Let's do it. So for the past X number of months, I've been living in a share house in downtown Tokyo. It's incredibly affordable. Actually, I pay about $500, probably less if you convert it to US, and you're conveniently located downtown. It's great. So let's tell the story of this boot camp and what happened there and why it was just like this mad serendipitous cool thing that has arrived at this moment now. So when I first went, I knew that you would need to study, basically. If you have no experience in software development, if you're going to do this kind of thing, to go in blind, you'd be stopped out after like a week or so. You'd go down real fast. So I dedicated, for that period of time leading up to leaving Kyoto, I dedicated about 2-3 months, right around December, November, December, to starting to study this stuff and get ready for the program. And I'm glad that I did, because in a class of 32 people, I was easily competing constantly for the bottom of the class. Like, I've never had a great technical intelligence. It's not something that I can't get eventually, but I really struggle, and that was something for me to confront. But in any other struggle that I've faced before, any one of these challenges, it really is mostly a question of time. You realize that whatever your deficiencies, strengths and weaknesses, that if you focus on it, you'll get it eventually. But I also felt like I don't have all the time in the world. You know, it's that effort plus time equals result kind of thing. But I was interested to get a job after this, to at least to continue to support this sort of creative stuff that I do. So that was disheartening. But then there was this really cool thing that happened. There were several cool things that happened while I was at the boot camp, and it's just great. I fondly look back at them now, but I think increasingly so as time goes on. That I was up one day, I was going to the bathroom, and I was in the lineup, and then I heard behind me, "Are you DaveTrippin?" And that more sounds like Irish than it should Scottish. And I turned around, and I wish I had said, you know, I was, but I just said, yeah. And the gentleman I'd run into is now my business partner, and it just so happened that this fellow, his name is Connor, was watching my videos before I showed up to the boot camp, and it immediately gave us this really cool rapport that we had, where it was like, oh, you enjoyed the stuff that I made? Okay, cool. Like, what are you up to in your life? And so on. And here's the real kicker. So there's a couple. midway through the course where I was getting crushed and like, okay, all this like model, view, controller, the back end, as they call it in software development, it's very, very difficult to keep this logical math in your head, or map, sorry, in your head. And I was really struggling with it, but I'm still persevering. But then about midway through, they told us, and I don't know how I missed this, because I read through the curriculum when I first got the, this is what you're going to have to do when you come here. I was notified that we were all going to have to make a pitch. A pitch being, you got to think of something, some creative application or software that you want to develop. 32 people in the class are going to present their different pitches, and then by vote, people are going to decide on which projects they would like to work on, and this would be the last final project of the whole thing. And while I may not be so technical, I have an endless supply of ideas, and so I got down to thinking what would be really cool that I could work on during this thing. I'd always thought it would be cool with all these new generative AI models that you would be able to have something that would assist you creating your story. And then, as somebody who plays Dungeons and Dragons, I was like, oh, wait a second. Like, this would be really, really good for somebody playing Dungeons and Dragons, not just somebody writing a story. Okay, well, maybe I can work on this. And I kind of fell in love with the idea. And as I progressed and planned, because we had this, 10 days leading up to when we would do our pitch, I put in all the extra work. I did the market research. I had a long conversation with ChatGPT about were this possible, could I do this with the API, given the programming language that we were using, and ChatGPT was really excited and thought it was a good idea and assured me that we could do it. So I went about preparing my pitch and spent, as I say, all these extra hours. Now, here's the wonderful, hilarious thing. I'm going around, I'm asking everybody, do you play D&D? Does this sound like something you find interesting or fun to use? And mostly people would. And this has been a major trope of the whole story all the way through, is that I've never met someone that I asked to get feedback from yet who hasn't provided some sort of useful insight. And it just shows you the power of collaboration and getting the opinions of others and different eyes on things. So that's been really, really cool. I was about to do my pitch. Now, noteworthy is that we have 3 minutes to give this pitch. And so you've got that, it's over, and then you're out. I had trimmed down, got it to, I think, about 3 minutes, and I had rehearsed many, many, many times to be assured of that fact. Now, when it came time for my turn, I got up there and they were like, oh, we can only use a Mac. And I was like, oh, what, you can't use my computer? They were like, yeah. I was like, okay. And then the second, what would you say, something that was thrown into the gears, they said that I could only use Google Slides, and me being this like old school working in the Japanese education industry, I was still using PowerPoint, and so not that confident that this would actually convert properly into that format. It seemed to, though, and so I got up there and I start to present, and it's going all right, and I come to the grand moment where it's time to introduce the app. It's called Radiant. And we go to that slide, and the whole presentation breaks right at the moment where I was now going to tell people what it was and hopefully win the hearts and minds of those who would want to work on it. And I couldn't. And it was crushing, and it was all my most recent laundry list of hopes and dreams out the window. And then I went over, slumped into my chair, and felt completely defeated, fully expecting there would be nobody that would work on it. Everybody wrapped up, all 32 people went through, and finally you had the voting that was to decide who was going to have their pitch chosen to be worked on in a group. First one comes through, it's not mine, of course not. Second one comes through, it's Radiant. I got a team, and it was highly voted for. And I couldn't believe this. I was like, this is me with my blinders on. I was talking to Connor, who was one of the people who decided to work on it, and he said, well, Dave, you wouldn't really shut up about the whole thing while you were there, leading up to you giving your pitch. So it's no wonder that everybody knew and everybody who was interested voted for it, because you basically told them already. And it was not always is my inability to be quiet sometimes useful, but in this case it seemed to be. So that was so cool, and I was completely shocked. And then we had 2 weeks to put this thing together for the final presentation, at least. And we did it, and we had a great team of creative guys. It was 4 of us that were working on it. One of the coolest things I've done in my life, from creating the prototype to then transposing that from your sort of conceptual stage into how it can actually be used. And we succeeded at large, and there was a lot of positive feedback from people, but that's where it ended in terms of the boot camp. Afterwards, I decided, you know what, I was doing this to get a job, but if I'm enjoying so much us creating this, why wouldn't I try and turn this into a business? Again, my whole life I've tried to, whatever I could create, make that the thing that supported me, because, you know, this is not the video to list all the millions of reasons why that's a great way to live, but that's my mindset. And we've been cracking away at it now for about, I think I mentioned 2 months. We've been doing it for 2 months, and it doesn't hurt either that Connor, in the class that we had, I would say ranked in terms of just pure brute force, effort plus brain. I think it was at the top 3. Don't tell him, it might go to his head. But you can meet him too, because we'll be doing a self-intro video if you want to jump into this video and then go, oh, I want to meet Connor. Connor will be over on channel Radiant, because I've made the channel another channel for the application specifically, because we're going to talk about all the features and things like that that we're planning to develop, which brings me, I suppose, I've gone on pretty far with this video, brings me to the last point that I wanted to make, which is, it is, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's there at radiantassistant.com, and you can go and check it out, and I hope you will use it with your tabletop games to help you create narrative in your combat. But if you are interested in another level of contribution to this, naturally we have a Patreon, because we are self-funded, and we're going to see what we can do as crowdfunding. But in addition to that, just like I spoke earlier about the value of having other people chime in with different opinions and perspectives, in parallel to maintaining the now free version, which is available, we're going to develop Radiant 2.0, and we've got all these cool ideas for it. More generative AI that we're going to include with it, a whole bunch of different things. And what we would like for that are alpha testers. What we need, and we put it on our company website, again, all of that stuff will have been linked, is that if you play D&D, or this just sounds like a cool technology that you might enjoy using, we want to invite you in to try it out. So if you go to www.aboutchronicle.com, you can go there, and then if you scroll down, you'll find apply to be an alpha tester. That'll put you in contact with us. And then as we develop this second version, you'll be able to use it the whole time with your games for free, of course, no charge. You're helping us out. We just want to know how you enjoy it. And that will be our next step, really. So, final step to consider, the last thing I'll tell you guys about, and this would perhaps be like the trippiest one for people, but it made a lot of sense practically for what we're kind of aspiring to do, which is, while I'm doing this, because it's going to take my all and everything I've got to actually make it happen, I've got to lower my cost of living, because Japan, be it though a beautiful place, it costs a little bit of money to be here unless you're living in, as I am, in a share house. So food as well, all of these other things to consider, because I'm doing this full time. That's I'm developing this business, working on this project. My channel will become live again full time. I need to lower the cost of living, so I'm moving to Thailand, which is another cool part of the story, because what I discovered is that they have a startup visa, work visa that you can get. And so in tandem to finishing this pitch and developing the project, I wrote a business plan. We sent it off to the Thai government. They approved it, and so myself and my team members can move there. To begin with, it's a 6-month visa, and then you can extend it for 2 years as your project continues. So pretty exciting. I've always been in search of adventure. I'm eternally grateful, let's use that, eternally here, to Japan for the time that I spent, but it's going to be wild to get to live in a completely new place. We've been looking at Bangkok. We'll actually live in the city. We're thinking that would be best for business connections and so on. and we'll be going there pretty soon. So you can expect that the content that will come out on my channel in very short order is going to undergo a rapid transformation from the surrounding of Japan and something like Yoyogi Park in Tokyo to Bangkok and all the beautiful things that they have on show there. I'm really, really excited for the move, for developing the business, for all of you who would like to be alpha testers and be involved with making this the best AI assistant for tabletop games that you could possibly imagine. All of it I'm excited for and grateful, and just gonna keep my head on straight, keep my head down, and try and make the best thing that we possibly can. It's so good to be back. I really missed the interactions a lot, actually, and it was quite touching how many people reached out through email or messages just to see that I was doing all right. That's really cool too. I really appreciate you. And yeah, it's gonna be good to be back. Obviously working on the business, but then art and life imitate each other, blah, blah, blah. That's how I like to live. That's how it's gonna be. Take care. Hug the people you love. And I'll be seeing you in a lot more new content coming soon. Peace.